Hello everyone, in this recording I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming full moon that we have in the sign of Sagittarius, either on the 3rd or 4th of June depending on where you are on the planet, and this takes place at 13 degrees and 18 minutes of Sagittarius. The sun of course illuminating the moon from the same degree of the sign of Gemini because a full moon is an opposition of the sun and the moon. Now, this full moon is really interesting because it doesn't hold very tight aspects with big power players. For example, it does hold a very wide orb trine with Mars being in fellow fire sign Leo. It also holds a trine with Black Moon Lilith in the same sign as Mars Leo. It also holds a square with Saturn being in Pisces, but these energies, are not very exact. They're not very intense. Because, for example, Saturn is at 7 degrees of Pisces, so it is a very wide orb. It is just a nuance. Mars, for example, is at 8 degrees of Leo, so again, it is just a nuance. Black Moon Lilith, well, she is at 16 degrees of Leo. Now, her trine is a little bit tighter, but still just a nuance. And actually, with Black Moon Lilith, this can come as a really positive energy because it motivates us, it allows us to immerse into whatever this full moon is going to be shining in our individual lives and collectively as well. However, it does hold a rather exact T-square with planetoid Orcus 1 in the sign of Virgo. So that tells us certain very important things which I'm going to be getting to in just a moment. But first of all, I would like to speak about the sign of Sagittarius and what this might represent both individually and collectively. Now, Sagittarius has a lot to do with the law, with justice, with the course of justice. Sagittarius is also the sign of our highest philosophies, our highest knowledge, our highest way of thinking. This is where, in thought at least, we need to reach the stars, symbolically. But Sagittarius does rule the stars in the sense that what is beyond there, and what is beyond there comes as a fascination. It comes as a drive, it comes as a motivation to the soul, to the higher mind. But in a more practical fashion, Sagittarius can also be seen as our academic, you know, way of being, of our academic knowledge, where it has taken us, where it is going to be taking us, the direction to where it's going. It is also our worldview, our life philosophies. Collectively speaking, it's perfectly valid. Now, of course, it is also a sign which has to do with long distance travel, exploration of the most exotic places, of the most unique places. Sometimes it has to do with, ancient civilizations, especially this full moon for a reason I'm going to be mentioning later on in this recording. But, all of these are rather Jupiterian traits because the ruling planet of Sagittarius is Jupiter. So let's look at Jupiter, what it's doing at the time of this full moon. Jupiter in the sign of Taurus holds a very tight conjunction with the North Node in Taurus. Now, what does this mean? How we feel, how we philosophize, how we understand, how we understand value, worth, managing of all of these, North Node and Taurus, our way forward in all of these things. This is going to be deeply highlighted, but philosophically, well, that's not really a big deal, but this is also going to hit the courts of justice. A full moon is a completion, so this is where what has been going on in the past years, what has been going on when Jupiter transited Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, a lot has been going on justice wise, law wise, our understanding of law, how equitable, how fair it is. Who does it serve? Especially, for example, Jupiter in Aquarius. And Jupiter in Aquarius is also important in so very many different ways because it was part of the Great Conjunction when it met Saturn in the sign of Aquarius back in December 2020, which opened the new paradigm, the karmic cycle of the next 20 years. And if we want to look at it a bit more expanded, Jupiter, of the next 200 years, because this starts the air sign cycle of the next great conjunctions. So it was deeply important. Does justice serve just a small part of the collective and small part of the individuals? Or does it have to serve everyone equally without exception? And this is where Orcus 1 and the T-square of the sun squaring Orcus and the moon squaring Orcus is very important because Virgo, its shadow expression is all about discrimination. As in, for example, higher levels of justice, who deserves it? Well, chances are people who live a modern life, people who are immersed in. Now, I'm trying to find the right words here, so please bear with me. Who are immersed in the law, in the sense that they accept the law, they accept the legislation, they play along. But this, in a certain way, means that law would greatly um, discriminate, for example, those who don't have any citizenship, homeless, for example, those who really are not immersed into the collective legislation. For any reason, it doesn't matter. For them, it can be highly, highly, highly discriminatory. This in itself immediately tells me that whatever this full moon is going to be shining a light on, it will change certain customs in the legal world, internationally, including human rights. Maybe not necessarily immediately the change part, but the revelation part, the project, the aspiration, a thesis, a hypothesis, let's say, because as I said, Sagittarius is university work, the scientific world. But when I say scientific, it's not the scorpionic research, it is basically everything in theory, everything in philosophy. Like, let me give you an example. Before Einstein managed, and this is where I'm not even sure if I'm actually telling the right story, but if I remember correctly, when he came up with the theory of relativity and many of his work, it wasn't immediately accepted and recognized and registered into the academic world. The governing authority, the law basically, saying whose idea, whose research, whose whatever is valid and whose is pure fiction and, you know, in the realm of the storybooks. So, this is where sometimes it is just the theory that is highlighted, but that theory in time can become very, very important and valuable. Hence the example. But right now we are speaking about human rights. Right now we are speaking about everything that basically um, has to become, or better said, enter to our higher awareness. And the reason for this is that another aspect, it doesn't converse necessarily with the full moon, but it is Mercury conjunct Uranus, and these two planets are each other's higher octaves. So this is a epiphany, a shock, something new, something that has never ever been spoken Mercury about. Why spoken or expressed verbally, written, etc.? Because Taurus also rules our communication, as in when it's verbalized, when it actually exits our being, when it's projected onto, and Mercury in this sign, along with Uranus, its higher octave, well, something is definitely going to be voiced one way or another. So exactly, and because Jupiter expands the North Node, financial energy as well. What has been taken place in, you know, the world economy? But this is where it also, decentralized. How did our politicians, our local governors, the authorities, the people whose job it was basically, how did they manage the resources? How did they manage the financial side of the COVID and all the other crises that hit us after? And chances are, if there was any corruption there, and Mercury is the planet of thieves. But when it's conjunct Uranus, the thief is caught because, Mercury is still in shadow, in shadow path, because we just had a Mercury retrograde, so Mercury still needs a little bit to exit that path it took backwards. And with Uranus, as I said, the thief is caught. Facts, figures, calculations, numbers, witnesses, etc. Who did what? Now, I know that this is highly a conspiracy, what I'm about to say, but where I live in Europe, especially in Eastern Europe, I think I live in Eastern Europe. Yeah, Eastern Europe. Well, the European Union kind of, how should I say, monopolized the vaccine production and the money side of it. So it was a huge international money laundering. Well, that is already shed. That is already under, the reflector light. So something happens in the court of justice with that. This is just an example, but with the North Node expanded by Jupiter in Taurus, it's world economy, it's banks, it's who rules what, who has all the money and why are they not sharing it, and most importantly, the rich and powerful and the famous and all that. This is where, how did they get rich? What are their hidden businesses? And other astrological energies later on, for example, in July, the North Node moving into Aries, there's gonna be a lot of tension followed by changes. Because the North Node in Aries can also mean taking by force. So, for example, if the Court of Justice ruled that you were a thief, and with this I say an institution, a government, politicians, big pharma, European Union, that Ursula, the ex-president or current president, whatever, of the European Union, well, and needless to say, whatever happens in Europe is just Europe, but this will also greatly, affect the United States economy. So, justice. There will be justice. But this full moon is just the revelation. It is just, let's say, a gentle light upon it. And what is more important, the North Node in Taurus, and the ruling planet again, Jupiter, long term. So whatever the court says, the court rulings, it will change custom and tradition legally, the jurisprudence of certain countries, certain states. It will produce a lot of effects without a shadow of a doubt. But let's go to more, optimistic side of this, because Sagittarius, without a shadow of a doubt, is one of the most optimistic signs out there. It works so well with dreams, with faith, with, dreaming big, reaching for the star, believing in yourself, believing in the common good, going for it, immersing into it. So, for a lot of people, I do believe this will represent travel opportunities, new hobbies, new passions, where they would like to travel, what they would like to immerse into. For a lot of people, I know that this is a full moon, so it doesn't favor necessarily new, but full moon is a completion. So it might just highlight that you are ready to embrace something new, to search for it, to open for it. And the opening is the one that will ultimately bring on something new. So, opportunities, visits, maybe visits from abroad, from friends, from whatever, work opportunities, or work abroad completed and a termination of this, but not in a bad way. It is just done. You can just harvest the rewards. For very many people, this is where they graduate, academic recognition, well done for your hard work studying, here's your diploma, kind of a good energy for exams, for immersing into a higher level of your studies, masteries, PhD. So this is really good for anything academic. This is also good in a way religiously, because Sagittarius also rules religion, or a religious, ritualistic, let's say, expression of spirituality, pilgrimages, the right moment, the right opportunity, or the calling for that pilgrimage which you always wanted to go on is here, you can do it. So I do believe this has a lot of good sides to this. Um, a totally different way of looking at this energy. Well, this is where collectively there is gonna be light shed on new, I want to say scientific, but again, let's not understand scientific as a scorpionic expression, because Sagittarius follows in the zodiac Scorpio. So Scorpio is the sign where the research, the facts, the numbers, the trial, the error, the microscope, the telescope, and all that is done. Sagittarius, where is the result of the research is incorporated and elevated. So something is presented, a new discovery, new long-term way of traveling. Again, this is highlighted by Mercury conjunct Uranus, new technology. And astrology and the expression of the signs is not static. It always evolves. Let's say maybe 50 years ago, long distance travel, let's say by plane or long train journeys, were more exclusively the rulership of Sagittarius. Nowadays, Sagittarius Mako ruled that, but it passed it on to Gemini. Why? It's accessible to everyone, it's not a big deal, everyone's doing it, it's part of our everyday lives. So Sagittarius is starting to incorporate space travel, cosmology, but as in exploring it in a real way, uh, travels to the most exotic destinations, for example, under the sea, like I want to say submarines, but who knows what kind of technologies exist today, so I don't want to say something ridiculous. Um, to the most inaccessible exotic places, International Space Station, and all of that we might see play out on the world stage. New programs, as in travel programs, opportunities, business in this sense, new companies, new inventions, Uranus conjunct Mercury. New inventions are going to be definitely part of this deal. And of course, this is where we can see play out on the world stage new efforts, of course, to uh, make certain exotic, exquisite elements, may that be travel or I don't know, arts, or name it whatever you want, more accessible to everyone. So this is one of the better sides of this full moon. Uh, Now I would like to speak about its square, T square, the sun and moon T squaring Orcus 1. Now Orcus is like a proto-Pluto. If Pluto is god of the underworld, of the seven hells, let's say, then Orcus is the guardian of the deepest parts of the abyss, which not even Pluto can access, And Vanth is, of course, the guardian, daemon or deity, infernal spirit of this. And in the sign of Virgo, and I'm so sorry to use some poor choice of words here, but it goes strongly against BS. Yeah. Ball, dot, dot, dot. And, the academic world, Sagittarius, is full of it. Is very, 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 to the, oversaturation full of it. Like, let me give you an example. There are certain medicines, supplements, products, inventions, which are really, how should I say, just just a fairy tale. I don't really want to name stuff like that, but they're allowed to be sold. Everything is official. They're not harmful, of course, not even an ounce of harm, but they don't really do anything. They're totally, totally, totally useless. Like, I can cut some grass, put it in a capsule, and sell it as I don't know what kind of miracle cure. For some people, of course, it was placebo, but the scientific world doesn't approve it academically, but it approves it in the form of hypothesis, which means if you believe in it, buy it because it's not harmful. Who cares? Waste your money. Now, this full moon with Orcus is gonna attack that a lot. If it's bogus, if it's just belief, make believe, may it be potency enhancer or whatever, well, chances are it's gonna disappear very, very quickly from the market, and there will be legislation to stop that. If you can sell it, then everyone can sell their very own BS, or no one sells it. We go back to the strictness of the academic approval, as in trials, clinical tests, and the benefic effects need to be strongly backed up by evidence. But this doesn't just go for, medicine and pharmaceutic things. This goes for everything. Reiki healing, prananadi, energy healing, divination, uh, any kind of therapy, any kind of a device, any kind of invention, where you put some kind of, and again, I'm using examples and I shouldn't really, um, some kind of silicone, whatever, in the washing machine, and it clears up the fur and every field there. Well, you know what I mean. It does something, but it's definitely not what it's made to be. Believe in, you know what I mean? So this will impact, because Orcus wants in Virgo the positive side of discrimination. If it's BS, well, it has to be discriminated. Or no one's discriminated. There is also that, but as I said, this goes much, much further and higher, challenging cosmology theories, Newtonian physics theories, quantum physics theories. This is really challenging everything that we cannot see with our eyes. You know, this energy will say, of course, understand this collectively. Well, it makes sense on paper, the calculations are there. Whatever you show on the computer screen, okay, but if I don't feel it and if I do not believe it, it doesn't exist for me. So this will cause a lot of controversy. And Orcus Wanth is really good at something. Sagittarius is also the sign of religious leaders, gurus, and all. Fake will receive a massive slap under this full moon. But let us speak about the more fascinating and positive sides, the optimism of it. And this is where we have to go to the Sabian symbol of this energy. The Sabian symbol speaks about the pyramid and the Sphinx. And I find that so fascinating because literally, I do believe fresh approach of many archaeological discoveries, of course, not just ancient Egypt, ancient everything, like every culture, every anywhere on the globe, even on Antarctica or whatever, there are going to be massive, massive, massive discoveries and putting the puzzle pieces together. So ancient wisdom and artifacts and whatever that fascinated us, Sagittarius, fascinated us for, I don't want to exaggerate, but many hundreds of years, maybe now are gonna be granted a totally new understanding. And Sun in Gemini, a practical understanding, a eureka moment. Aha! As in, this is where the ancients got the knowledge from, the methodology from, this is why it worked for them. And the opposite as well. This is what doomed them. This is what they done wrong. This is where they were savage, selfish, whatever. This will give us a totally new understanding. But ultimately, it is a massive blessing. And why am I saying this? Because any kind of new understanding, any kind of much, much clearer perception, well, it gives us power and it elevates us and it drives us collectively. So I would like to keep this horoscope short because I will try to make what this full moon may mean for each of the 12 signs separately, upcoming in the coming days. And also, I would like to finish this by dedicating this horoscope and, of course, all my work in the loving memory of my mom, whose solar return would have been exactly on the day of this full moon. So, very, very happy birthday, Mom. And I do hope that you enjoy this horoscope. So, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for all the love and support. And if you'd like to keep on supporting my work and my channel, you can donate in the PayPal link in the description below. Many blessings, everyone. Until next time, bye for now.